For 3 decades, a green siren whispered a seductive lie into the ears of the American middle class, convincing millions that a $4 cup of coffee was an affordable luxury. But in late 2025, that seductive whisper turned into a scream of financial agony as the world's largest coffee giant faced a reckoning that no amount of caffeine could fix. The latest quarterly reports have sent shockwaves through Wall Street, revealing a staggering 85% collapse in net profit that has left investors scrambled and stores deserted. This is not just a story about inflation or the rising price of coffee beans. It is a dark financial autopsy of a brand that sold its soul for scale and lost its heartbeat in the process. We are currently witnessing the overdue explosion of a speculative bubble built on overpriced beans and the fragile ego of the modern consumer. As the final months of 2025 unfold, the numbers tell a story of systematic corporate suicide that will make any venture capitalist shudder in fear. Starbucks has been forced to initiate a brutal restructuring plan, announcing the permanent closure of over 600 underperforming locations across North America in a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding. The once crowded cafes that defined urban life are now standing as hollow monuments to a business model that simply does not work in the current economic climate. The middle class has finally reached its breaking point, realizing that a $7 daily habit is no longer a status symbol, but a financial anchor. While the company scrambles to blame external factors, the truth is far more sinister and lies deep within the fractured foundation of their own balance sheet. The downfall of this empire began with a fundamental misunderstanding of what they were actually selling to the public for all those years. For decades, the company did not just sell beverages. They sold a concept known as the third place, a sanctuary between work and home where you could pay a 700% markup for the right to belong. This was a psychological masterpiece of marketing that transformed a simple commodity into a high-margin lifestyle product. However, as the corporate machine demanded infinite growth, the sanctuary was slowly dismantled and replaced with a high-pressure factory floor. The warm lighting and soft armchairs were traded for hard plastic and cold glass as the business transitioned from a luxury experience to a glorified fast food assembly line. In the world of high-stakes finance, there is a dangerous zone known as the middle market trap, and the overpriced coffee industry has fallen directly into its center. In 2025, the consumer landscape has bifurcated into two distinct and aggressive camps that are currently devouring the middle ground. On one side, you have the ultra-budget giants like McDonald's and Dunkin', who have mastered the art of the cheap, efficient caffeine delivery system. On the other side, a new wave of boutique local roasters has captured the high-end market by offering actual quality and craftsmanship that a corporate giant can never replicate. This has left the major chains standing in a financial no-man's land, where they are too expensive for the budget-conscious and too low quality for the connoisseur. The appointment of Brian Niccol as the superstar chief executive officer in late 2024 was supposed to be the silver bullet that saved the brand from extinction. He came with a reputation for turning around failing food giants, and his Back to Starbucks campaign promised to restore the soul of the company. However, the latest data from the end of 2025 proves that even a corporate magician cannot fix a broken mathematical equation. His attempts to simplify the menu and reduce wait times have actually alienated the loyal fan base that enjoyed the infinite customization options. The restructuring costs associated with his failed initiatives have only served to deepen the debt hole, proving that you cannot save a house if the very land it is built on is sinking into the sea. One of the most overlooked factors in this financial collapse is the hidden cost of the digital revolution that was supposed to be the company's greatest strength. The Starbucks mobile app, once hailed as a triumph of fintech, has actually become a digital weapon used against the company's own operational efficiency. By allowing millions of people to place complex multi-layer orders from their phones, the company inadvertently created an invisible queue that paralyzed their physical stores. In late 2025, walk-in customers often find themselves waiting behind 50 invisible digital orders, leading to a toxic environment of frustration and rage. This digital-first strategy has created a massive complexity tax that has eroded profit margins and destroyed the very customer experience that the brand was built upon. The unit economics of a modern luxury latte are a nightmare for any accountant who dares to look closely at the numbers. While the actual cost of the coffee beans in a $7 drink is less than 50 cents, the overhead costs of labor, rent, and marketing has spiraled out of control. In 2025, the cost of commercial real estate in prime urban locations has reached record highs, forcing chains to pay exorbitant rents just to maintain a presence on the street. When you factor in the rising demands for fair wages and the extreme cost of employee turnover, the net profit on each cup of coffee has shrunk to almost nothing. The company is now in a position where they must either raise prices to $10 per cup or continue to watch their earnings vanish into the atmosphere. The true killer of the overpriced coffee industry, however, is not a competitor but a technological shift occurring inside the homes of their best customers. In the last 24 months, the market for high-end home espresso machines has exploded as consumers realize the math of their morning routine. A high-quality prosumer machine that costs $1,000 will pay for itself in less than 6 months if it replaces a daily $7 Starbucks habit. In 2025, the average consumer has become an expert in brewing their own premium beverages, using technology that rivals the commercial equipment found in retail stores. This has effectively removed the most profitable segment of the market, the daily commuter, and left the coffee giants fighting over the scraps of occasional tourists. We must also examine the dark reality of the brand's international expansion, particularly in markets like China, which was once considered the great hope for future growth. In 2025, the geopolitical tensions and a cooling Chinese economy have turned this dream into a financial disaster of epic proportions. Local competitors in Asia have moved with a speed and aggression that the American corporate machine could not match, offering superior technology and lower prices. The billions of dollars in capital expenditure that were poured into the Chinese market are now sitting on the balance sheet as potential write-offs. This failed global gamble has left the company over-leveraged and vulnerable at the exact moment they needed financial stability the most. The social contract between the coffee giant and its workforce has also completely disintegrated, creating a hidden liability that is finally coming due. The aggressive union-busting campaigns of the early 2020s left a permanent scar on the corporate culture, leading to a demoralized and disengaged staff. In 2025, an overworked and underpaid barista is not a brand ambassador, but a point of friction for the customer. The company has found itself in a vicious cycle where poor service leads to fewer customers, which leads to labor cuts, which leads to even worse service. This rot from within is often more dangerous than any external competitor because it cannot be fixed with a simple marketing campaign or a new menu item. As we look at the wreckage of the coffee industry in late 2025, we see a cautionary tale about the dangers of brand dilution and corporate greed. The company tried to be a tech platform, a bank, a fast food joint, and a luxury lounge all at the same time, and in doing so, they became nothing to no one. They ignored the fundamental laws of supply and demand, believing that they could raise prices indefinitely without improving the underlying product. Now, the market has finally spoken, and the message is clear. The era of the overpriced, mid-quality corporate latte is officially over. The siren has lost her voice, and the consumers have finally woken up to smell the reality of their own financial situation. The stock market has been ruthless in its assessment of this collapse, with share prices hitting a 5-year low as institutional investors flee the sinking ship. The negative earnings reports for the last 3 consecutive quarters have triggered a massive sell-off, wiping out billions of dollars in shareholder value in a matter of weeks. Analysts who once praised the company's growth strategy are now calling for a complete breakup of the business or a private equity buyout. The debt-to-equity ratio has reached a level that many consider unsustainable, leaving the company with very few options for a future turnaround. This is the endgame for a corporate giant that forgot its purpose and focused only on the next quarterly earnings call. In the final analysis, the collapse of overpriced coffee is a symptom of a much larger shift in the global economy and consumer psychology. People are no longer willing to trade their hard-earned money for a hollow experience and a mediocre product wrapped in expensive branding. The era of mindless consumption is being replaced by a new focus on value, quality, and authentic connection. Starbucks and its competitors are not just fighting a business cycle. They are fighting a change in the human spirit that values substance over style. As the last of the 600 stores close their doors forever, we are left to wonder which corporate giant will be the next to fall under the weight of its own overpriced delusions. The story of the $7 latte will be taught in business schools for decades as a masterclass in how to destroy a legendary brand. It serves as a stark reminder that in the world of finance, nothing is permanent and no company is too big to fail. The green siren once promised us a lifestyle of sophistication and belonging, but all she really delivered was a hole in our wallets and a bitter aftertaste. Today, the world is moving on to better things, and the overpriced coffee industry is left behind as a relic of a more foolish time. This is not just the end of a brand. It is the end of an era of corporate arrogance that we may never see again. As you look at the empty chairs and the darkened windows of your local coffee shop, remember that this was a crisis years in the making. The financial collapse we are witnessing in 2025 is the natural result of a business that prioritized quality and metrics over people. The lesson is simple but profound. If you do not respect your customer and your product, the market will eventually find a way to replace you. The coffee industry is currently learning this lesson at a cost of billions of dollars and thousands of lost jobs. It is a dark chapter in the history of American business, but it is one that was ultimately overdue and entirely necessary for a healthier economic future. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the financial ruin of a global icon. If you found this autopsy of the coffee industry insightful, please ensure that you are subscribed for more dark stories from the world of finance and corporate strategy. We will continue to track the movement of the markets and the collapse of the giants that once seemed untouchable. The world of business is a brutal and unforgiving place, and only those who stay informed will survive the turbulence. Until next time, keep your eyes on the numbers and never trust a brand that values its stock price more than its soul.